singing voice, huh?
Loren singing voice.
You have a solo? Thanks for teaching. God's good plans and it's you know, because the people decided for you one mother at that time.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see everyone that come out this morning. And I guess it's one of those days I have to reflect Pearl Harbor Day today. And a number of years ago, I happened to be in Pearl Harbor on December 7th, and it was really a somber moment, and it was kind of one of those aha moments because we'd young and lost track of time, and got to Pearl Harbor, and they had this whole flowers laid out and everything. Well, what's going on here? And then you just dawn on, oh, it's December 7th, and it was really something because you seen all the Japanese people that were there with a lot of the veterans and people telling stories of how things were coming in, planes were coming over this way, planes were coming that way, and really an eye-opening effect. So that's gonna ingrain in my mind for a long, long time, and some that wish it would never happen, but it did, and I salute all the veterans that happen to go through that and are losing them fast.
It's hard for me too, because it's.
But I want to welcome you here this morning, and if you grab your course books and turn to number 92.
Regardless whether they stay here or in the church or not, you know, and they disagree with me.
I am in the blue one, correct, in the blue course book, number 92.
Salvation is the issue.
sing this through twice. That's good. That's fine. Sorry. Jay, would you open our service with prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day you've given to each and every one of us. Thank you, Lord, that we could be in your house, Heavenly Father, and worship you on the Sabbath day. Just thank you for that, Lord. And just thank you for watching over us this week and keeping each and every one of us safe. And just continue to watch us so we don't slip and fall, because if we try to slip and fall, you're always there to catch us. And just thank you for everything you've done for each and every one of us, and watch over us around the way, Lord, and protect them. Thank you for all you've done in these things.
Yeah. Maybe seated. You want to prepare for the offering, Jay? That'd be great. You got okay? You got it. Perfect. Well, let's come on up and we'll take up this morning's offering. And I believe it's for the general maintenance. We'll show it there. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the day you've given us, and thank you for the many blessings. And as Jay said, catch us when we fall. We ask at this time that this offering that maybe put your works and be able to spread your word many times over and over and over. Once again, we thank you for everything you've done in our lives and into this church. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, ladies. We aren't quite done yet, so this is going to be short and sweet this morning. But last week we didn't have church here on account of the storm, and I came in earlier this week, and boy, Alfred was plugged. Snowplow had gone, but the churchyard was it was probably about that deep. So that's okay. I'm glad I could be able to do it. At this time, we'd like to take up your prayer requests.
My mom told me that Gladys McCoy had passed away, so that's Jody McCoy's mom. So you can remember their family in Fairfax now. Now they don't have a mom and dad. Jody and Kathy.
Okay. I remember Jody McCoy was on the videos on here a while back, and I believe that was correct. just to put a face to the name, name to the face.
I forget what his position is, but he's like the right-hand man to Loren Stacey. They kind of partner up, like Stacey's considered the president, but I forget what his Jody's position is called, but
We didn't get a prayer request from Michelle, who passed away or what happened?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jody McCoy,
Who passed away?
his mother,
Or his mother?
yeah, his mother. So then Jody is, down in Denver, I believe then.
well, he's from Texas.
Okay,
But I think they do traveling back and forth, is kind of how they want to.
okay. Jay?
I'd like to thank you for remembering me for in the prayers, you know, the preacher, Stephen Banji, I've been and some other ones. It's been the last couple of weeks have been really rough. It was the week before last week, my lower back got strained from lifting some pretty heavy stuff for the past probably couple of months, but went to one place, to the chiropractor, and he said it's gonna take a couple of weeks before it gets better pretty good. And then went to the doctor, and he said, well, it's strained pretty bad, he said, in the lower part. And then went to a different place that he recommended. It's like an acupuncture, but the needles go in about 2 to 3 inches, and it goes into the source area. And just before that, I had a week of severe pain for about, it was been about almost a week, but that was the last week. And it was a lot of painkillers in one day. And then I told my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he used to be an LPN. He said, well, that's way overdosage, he said. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, it's bad pain. And so I just had the lower dosage and kept praying about it, and it was okay, so I know the Lord had his hand upon that. And just like to keep remembering on that situation, and I know when I was having that severe, the pain started early before the really severe pain, and one of my the workers that I work with, where I work at, he just come up to me, and I couldn't ask for a better worker that I work with all the time, and he's a Christian himself, like I said before. And he come up to me and he said, in the name of Jesus, God the Father, heal Jay and be with him. And then I just pretty much went into tears. Pretty much went into tears after that, and gave me a hug, and he said, you're going to be okay. And just like thank God that I have an employee at my side pretty much all the time. But just remember me in your prayers. I'm going to probably have a new career change because I can't lift no more than 10 pounds now. And the guy that puts the needles in my back, and he said, if you keep aggravating it, he said it's going to go into chronic, he said, meaning you're going to have pain for the rest of your life if you don't stop, because it's irritated, and that area is pretty much really, really irritated. It just doesn't like what I'm doing, so I'd like to remember in prayers for that. And the Lord's been by my side each and every way, and my mom. I'll just put it this way. The devil's been trying. The devil knows that his time is just about up. And he's trying everything in any which way he can to try to get you on his side. And the Lord has been me there every minute, every second of the day. And my mom, and she knows what I've been going through. He keeps hanging in there, telling me to hang in there. You know, the devil tries, many, like I said, many ways to try to give up. And there's times that I wanted to, but the Lord just says, just keep going, don't never give up. Otherwise you're giving yourself to Satan. And my mom keeps saying that too, and I said, I'm going to try my best and try to do His will and do whatever I need to do to get through this life. So, and He's been strengthening me each. And my mom probably knows it, and she probably could tell it and getting stronger, not just because the Lord 100% from Him. And also my mom, I have my mom at the side to help me in that situation too. So, and then other people for their prayers too. And I just remember being your prayers. And thank you for everything, all your prayers. And thank you.
Jordan.
Is there somebody else?
No, Jordan, yeah.
I heard this week that Darcy Sake had passed away. I don't know if anyone knows him, but he was the guy who was the sales guy at South's for years and sold us a bunch of our family member vehicles, and he got some form of, I don't know, dementia of some sort, and took him really, really fast. It was kind of sad to me, and I was remembering him telling me that his dream was always to move down to Iowa where his daughters were living and such, and he never had that opportunity. And I just pray for his family and such. And also, Susan and I had gone through this week looking at a place to possibly rent, and it didn't work out for us. And our desire is to get out on our own eventually, and we just want to be able to have understanding and know what God's will is and where He would want us and what He wants us to do. Great. Just add us to your prayer, I guess.
We had 2 different health scares the last few weeks. Joshua fell down the steps and then started running really, really high fevers shortly after. And with different things going on, the doctor thought he might have a brain bleed going on. So it was very scary for a little bit, but very thankful he just had a virus and he did not have a concussion and he's just fine. I'm very thankful. And I had a situation too we were concerned about and had some testing done this week and everything came back normal. Very grateful.
Little story with Joshua. Jordan come in and set him on the bench and put some stuff down beside him, and he sat there and turned around, looked at Dad go out the door, and he just sat there and, okay, I'm going to move this stuff around. It was really cute this morning. I'm pretty content. Julie.
Very thankful always for what God has done for me and in my life. And sometimes we do get down, like Jay said, we get down and Satan tries to get us down, but God is always there for us. And I'm always mindful of others who have a lot worse problems. Sometimes you just look around and you think my problem seems small compared to so-and-so's, who's maybe a young father and mother who has cancer and little children. I know of several people like that. So God is always there for us through the good and the bad. And I have a prayer of thanks. I'm so thankful I haven't really been around in church much, but thankful for that everything went okay with Alicia's long labor and delivery, and that the baby is healthy as far as we know, and so thankful for that.
I'll have to earn some gold stars. Yes, Julie, if there's somebody that's feeling ill or something, she's Johnny on the spot. She's usually send a card or something out, and then if something had forgotten, maybe by me, He always comes to me and say, "Why didn't you tell me this?" Yes, it's. Are there any others? All right, if you'd please rise and go to the Lord in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for the day you've given us. Thank you for life in this world. Thank you for being there for us. And we go through our daily routines, we stumble a lot. And through our mistakes that we can look back and know that you're there and there to pick us up and to be there for us. And at this time, all the prayer requests that I may have forgotten them, and you know each and every one of them, and I'd ask that you'd touch each and every one of us, and know that somehow, some way, know that you're with us, and yes, as Jay said, that we feel that devil's time is coming to a close and coming to an end fast. And these times, we just thank you for everything that you've given us in our lives. That we may not reflect back a lot and say all these things were from you, but deep down we know everything that we've gotten, or we have, is from you. And be with us throughout this week. Thank you for the Sabbath day, to sit down and reflect upon you. And also that the speaker, that the video we have, that we may be able to put his words in our hearts and be able to always draw upon them. Thank you for everything you've given us once again, and we ask all these things, not that our will be done, but only that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. We have no praise team. We'll have a quick song, and then we will run back and turn the video on. Sure. Make my job easier. The Blue Book, 178, please. 178. I guess I kind of forgot at the beginning of the service. December 13th, the marriage retreat, Inspiration Point. Excuse me. And December 27th is the young adult retreat at Inspiration Point. Any other announcements that I have forgotten? Anybody? Okay. All right, bear with me. I'll just start up the video.
Family and people we love come down with various diseases and challenges. So often we don't know what to do, and
Sometimes we have opposite reactions. Sometimes we just kind of disappear and put a distance between us and a situation we feel helpless to change. And other times we become too helpful. Every internet cure that we come across we want to share, and every vitamin and all of those kinds of stuff. And I'm just going to pray and ask that you give careful thought and be merciful to Don and Trish. Don't separate yourself from them. Stay close. But I'll just remind you that sometimes a hug and a handshake means a whole lot more than lots of advice. I have a book in my library called The Friendship Factor. It's written by a man named Alan McInnes, and let me read you just a paragraph. He writes, "In research at our clinic, my colleagues and I have discovered that friendship is the springboard for every kind of love. Friendships spill over onto the most important relationships in our lives. People with no friends usually have a diminished capacity for sustaining any kind of love with anyone. They tend to go through a succession of marriages, be estranged from various family members, and have trouble getting along at work. On the other hand, those who learn how to love their friends tend to make long and fulfilling marriages, to get along well with people at work, and they enjoy their children." Now, I was thinking this week, if Alan McInnes and his colleagues are correct, having friends and being a friend to others is vitally important to your success in every significant relationship in your life. There's kind of this American macho vision of, I am an island, I am a rock, I don't need anybody, I can sit at home and me and my TV will be fine, thank you. But studies show that friendship, time spent with others, is so important. I was thinking, when we're young, we seem to realize this intuitively. We know how important friends are when we're children. I would bet that even if you're now in your 80s, if we gave you opportunity, and we're not, but if we did, I'll bet you could just regale us with hours of stories about what you and your best friend did when you were 8 years old, or 9 years old, or in elementary school. Back then, could you imagine going very long at all without spending time with your friend? If you were like me, you rushed home from school. You did whatever chores you had to, and you put on your old clothes and you were out the door to be with your buddies. But as we grow older, life seems to get in the way. We get a little bit older, and then college classes and studying for them, those first jobs that we hold, they begin to take up our time. And we still have friends. They're still there, but we just don't have as much time to devote to them as we used to have. And then some of us get married and begin raising kids of our own. Some of us plunge into careers and jobs, and the years go by, and that special closeness that comes only by spending lots of time together is lost. And we still have those warm feelings, those feelings of love and loyalty towards our friends. And I'm guessing that even if we have people that we hardly ever get the chance to see, there are some of those that we would be willing to die for because they're our friends. But while we're willing to die for them, we just don't have much time to give to them. I'm convinced that this is not what God intends for us. I think God made us to live life together. I think God made us to live life with friends. Way back at creation, God looked at Adam there all by himself, and he said, it's not good for man to be alone. And he was talking about giving him a wife, but I think that can apply to friendships as well. We need close relationships in our lives. We need people that we can talk with and share with and trust and bounce ideas off of. You were made to be a friend. Now, my purpose this morning is not to depress you. Take a big breath, let it go. My purpose this morning, if possible, is to accomplish a couple of very positive things. First, I want to suggest some things that you can do to be a great friend. And then second, I want to give you a very special opportunity, maybe a couple of them, to put into practice what I'm going to preach. Okay? So let's jump right in. If you got your Bible, John chapter 15. Jesus has some very important and special things to say about friendship. He's saying them to his own friends the night before he's to be arrested and then crucified the next day. In John 15, I want you to look just at two verses, verses 12 and 13. Jesus says to his friends, "My command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friend." There's the marker of true friendship. Now, when Jesus said that to his friends, I'm sure that on his mind, because he knew what was going to happen, he was thinking about very literally laying down his life, which he did the next day for his friends. And for me and you too, by the way. So based on his teachings, and especially on his example this morning, I want to just mention 4 keys to being a great friend. And let's just plug in there in the outline. If you pull it out, fill in the blanks, and here we go. Key number 1, believe the best of people. Now, you may be getting tired of hearing that from me, but it's among the most important things you can do as a person. Believe the best of people. If you want to be a great friend, you need a positive attitude towards people in your life. You need to think the best, not the worst. If you jump to a conclusion, it needs to be the best possible conclusion. Instead of what's normal, the worst possible conclusion, right? On your sermon outline, I've included a life principle that I think is most often true. We tend to become what the important people in our lives think of us. I think that's true. We tend to become what the most important people in our lives think of us because we want to please them. We want to be like them. We want to impress them. We don't want to let them down. And so if they have a high opinion of us, we tend to live up to that opinion. And I have noticed in my years of life that people do tend to live up to or down to the opinion of the most important people in their lives. Now, if you're aware of this principle, you can use it to be a very positive influence in people's lives. And I want to suggest to you that that's exactly what Jesus did. And the best example of this, I think, is his relationship with Peter. We talked about this just a few weeks ago, but I just want to remind you of it again. John chapter 1, verses 40 through 42 is Jesus' very first meeting with Peter, and vice versa. John chapter 1, beginning with verse 40. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the two who had heard what John the Baptist had said and who had followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was to find his brother Simon, we know Simon actually became Peter, and tell him, "We have found the Messiah," that is the Christ. And he brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him, at Peter, and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which, when translated, is Peter. Now, Cephas is Aramaic. Peter is Greek. When Cephas or Peter is translated in English, it means what? The rock. You're Simon. You're going to be the rock. Jesus does 2 important things. First, he looks down deep inside Peter. The word that's translated look in your English Bible translates a Greek word which means to gaze intently at, to study, to dig below the surface. So Jesus gives Peter his full attention. He really looks him in the eye and looks into his heart. And then second, he gives Peter a vision of a better Peter that he, Peter, might become. He says, "This is what you are now. You're Simon. Let me tell you what you're going to be. You're going to be Cephas, the rock." Now let me ask you, if you had your choice, who would you rather hang with? Who would you rather spend time with? Someone who thinks that you're nothing special and probably never will be? Somebody that goes out of his or her way to tell you that you're stupid and you're dumb and you're always goofing up? Or someone who thinks the best of you and is continually telling you, you know, you're going to be great. Who would you rather hang with? You know the answer to that. We all want to be with people who think the best of us. Doing that for others can tremendously influence their lives in a positive direction. My favorite example of this, I hope I haven't overused this story, but some of you I know haven't heard it, so here it goes again. Leadership teacher John Maxwell tells this story about the San Francisco School District under the leadership of a superintendent named Art Mahoney. One year they called in 3 teachers, and they said, we have been looking through our teacher roster here in the San Francisco district, and we have decided that you 3 are the best elementary school teachers in the entire district. And so we'd like for you, if you would agree to this, we'd like you to join us in a very special project. We're going to give each one of you 30 of the top, most gifted students within the district. And so our experiment is to find out what the 3 best teachers and the 90 best students can do together in one school year. Are you willing? And of course the teachers were thrilled. Wow, 3 of the top best, and I'm one of them. That's great. I get to work with gifted students. Wonderful. No special funding, no special projects, nothing other than telling them, you're the best and you're going to be working with the best. And they turned them loose. And at the end of the school year, Maxwell says, those 3 teachers and their 3 classes had gone 30% above and beyond the average advancement within the rest of the San Francisco School District. And the teachers were so excited about that. They were thinking, boy, we really are something. Our students are great, aren't they? But then they called them in and they told them the truth. They said, we kind of lied to you. The experiment really wasn't about the best teachers and the best students. The experiment was about, people believing the best of each other. And so we got to tell you that, those students we told you were the best, now we just kind of picked them at random. Well, the teachers were even more thrilled by that. They said, wow, look what we did with just ordinary, normal students. And then Mahoney popped that bubble too. He said, no, we kind of lied to you about being the best teachers too. Your names, we just kind of picked them out of a hat. And the real experiment was to find out what just normal teachers and normal students would do if they all thought that they were the best. Wow. Wow. I hope that you've had that experience in your life. I'm always confessing things. Growing up in my family, I received that kind of positive encouragement regularly. When I goofed up, Mom and Dad let me know. But I always felt like there was nothing I couldn't do if I just worked at it. That was great. Can I confess something else? Sometimes I worry that I've got a really low IQ. It's just they were so positive raising me that I don't know it. It's great being encouraged, isn't it? It's great being told, you're great, you're wonderful. And then living up to that. Believe the best of people in your life. Key number 2. Take the initiative and reach out to people. Take the initiative and reach out to... friendship doesn't just happen. Somebody has to go first. Somebody has to reach out. And one of the things that seems to me that made Jesus so attractive to people is that's what he did. He didn't sit home on his couch waiting for the phone to ring. He didn't go to synagogue and stand around and wonder, I hope somebody will invite me home for lunch after church and then, wander off disappointed. No, he was always reaching out. He was saying, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. Zacchaeus, we're going to talk about in a minute, he invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house. But he's always out among the people. He's shaking hands, he's introducing himself, he's among the people. He offered invitations. Someone said, if you want to have friends, you got to be a friend. So true. So true. And I think Jesus may have been among the best examples of that. Jesus seemed especially interested in 3 types of people, though. First, people with little obvious potential. He just seemed to look out for people that other people didn't see a whole lot in. If we're honest, we probably wouldn't have chosen the people that Jesus chose to be our closest friends. But Jesus looked for people like that. Second on the list, people look for others that other people didn't even like. Here's Zacchaeus. Think of, Zacchaeus, He's a guy that he's rich, but he doesn't have any friends because he's ripped everybody off in his whole town. Nobody likes him. Luke's account of Jesus' meeting with Zacchaeus, Jesus sees Zacchaeus up in the tree. Remember, Zacchaeus was a wee little man. He's a little guy. He had climbed a tree in order to see Jesus, this guy that everybody was talking about. And Jesus sees him and says, "Hey, Zach, let's go to lunch. You're buying." And away they go. And Luke says, everybody in the town grumbled and mumbled about that. What's he doing with him? But Jesus had such impact upon Zacchaeus that salvation came to him and his whole house. Zacchaeus paid back everything he had taken 4 times. He gave half of what he owned to the poor. Amazing. Just because Jesus saw something in him and reached out. Remember the Samaritan woman at the well in John chapter 4? Why is she there in the middle of the day all by herself? The ladies of the region, they would go out in the cool of the evening together. It was a social event to bring water in. But we find out about her relationships and her marriages and her non-marriages. And apparently she's an outcast. She can't go with the other ladies at the cool time. She's got to go by herself in the middle of the day when it's hot. And Jesus reaches out to her. And through her, the whole city comes to know of Jesus. That's what Jesus did. He took the initiative. He reached out to people. Sometimes people that others didn't even like. And number 3 on the list, he seemed very interested in people who were hurting and in need. Jesus identified with hurting and needy people. He went out of his way to pour into their lives the love of God. And I just want to remind you that you can do that too. You can do that too. Of course, in order to do that, you need to put into practice key number 3, which on your outline is put others first. Put others first, and boy, that is not normal. That's not human nature. It's unnatural. If someone has said, instead of putting people in their places, we need to put ourselves in their places. I like that. Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, if we're going to put others first, there are 2 things that we need to change with God's help. Number 1, our normal perspective, and number 2, our normal priorities. And that's a difficult thing to do. Sometimes it's a difficult thing to want to do. But we have to do it if we're going to be like Jesus. We need to see things from the other guy's point of view, as well as our own. And we need to balance our needs and desires with the needs and desires of others. If that sounds vaguely biblical to you, it should. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. God says, each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. If you're old enough, do you remember how dumb so many people thought that President Ronald Reagan was? Remember this guy? His political opponents just couldn't understand how this old, storytelling actor seemed to beat them over and over and over again at their political games. Even when they were in the majority, they just couldn't figure it out. And in spite of all of the stories about, Reagan not concentrating on the details and Reagan falling asleep during meetings and all of that kind of thing, I think part of Reagan's success came from a sort of a selfless attitude that he seemed to have. Remember, he enjoyed making fun of himself. He enjoyed pointing out others and lifting them up. One of his favorite quotations that I remember him for saying, he would quote a man named Yates who said, "It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit." Queen Victoria of England. I found a picture when she was young and pretty. Most of the time you see her old and ugly. Queen Victoria, during her long reign as Queen of England, had 2 very noteworthy prime ministers. First there was a man named Benjamin Disraeli, and then later there was a man named William Gladstone. And on one occasion, somebody asked Queen Victoria what the difference was between these 2 men. Disraeli had served her for a long time and then had died or become too old to continue, and Gladstone replaced him. And she thought about it for a minute, and this is what she said. She said, when William Gladstone is with me. I think that I am with the most brilliant leader in all the world. But she said, when I was with Benjamin Disraeli, I thought I was the most brilliant leader in all of the world. Kind of says it all, doesn't it? One man called attention to himself. Another man made the people around him feel like they were great. Change your normal human nature priorities and perspectives. Put others first. And then key number 4, give others another chance. Give others another chance. Here's the principle. Friendships grow not on perfection, but on forgiveness. A few minutes ago, we were talking about these normal perspectives and priorities. Well, here's another place where normal can really work against us, because what's normal is to blame, not to forgive. You been paying attention to all the stuff surrounding what's going on down in New Orleans and the Gulf Coast? Man, there's so many people just pointing fingers this way and that way. Nobody wants to be tagged with responsibility. You don't hear anybody stepping up to the plate and saying, you know, I didn't do a really good job, please forgive me. Do you know why? They'd be crucified. There's not a lot of forgiveness out there, is there? Heard an old story, a man driving down the road and he gets in an accident and he's shaking his fist out the window at the other driver and he says, why don't you watch where you're going? You're the 4th car I hit today. Why would people behave that way? When I was thinking about that old joke, I remembered the lady that used to call our church office. For those of you that are fairly, new to attending here, when I was the district guy, where's Wes? When I was the district guy here in Lodi, we had a woman that started calling our office 2 or 3 times a day. And she was trying to call her daughter, but apparently our number was very close to her daughter's number. And so she would call us, and my secretary would say, well, no, ma'am, this is a church office, you've apparently dialed the wrong number. But instead of saying, well, I'm sorry, the lady would argue. She'd say, no, I didn't. And, they would go back and forth, and my secretary would be trying to be so kind, and finally she'd say, well, okay, why don't you just hang up and try again? So the lady said, okay. And then the phone would ring again, it would be the same lady. One day I came back from lunch, and there was a message on the answering machine, and this lady was just mad beyond belief, and she was screaming, why do you people keep answering the phone when I don't call you? There wasn't a thought in her mind that maybe she might be doing something wrong. It was our fault. And I wonder if this isn't at part because, forgiveness is so rare. Nobody wants to admit any kind of wrongdoing because they're not confident that there's people around them that are going to say, well, okay, do better next time. We all mess up, don't we? I know you do. I know I do. We've all done things that we need to be forgiven for. We all do things that we need to be forgiven for, but forgiveness is kind of hard to find. Ernest Hemingway used to write these short stories about life in Spain, and one of them that I remember, he was writing about a dad and a son that got in this big argument when the son was, an older teenager, and the son just, had it with dad, and they're both of them very proud, and the son just packed up his stuff and left, and no contact for years and years and years. But over those years, the dad grieved the loss of the relationship with his son, and his heart began to melt, and he began to wonder about how important his pride was. And in Hemingway's story, finally, he sits down and he places an ad in the city newspaper, and he writes, he says, Paco is the son's name. He says, Paco, please forgive me, I forgive you. Please meet me tomorrow at noon in the city square, right in front of the courthouse. Love, your dad. And then in Hemingway's story, the next day at noon in the courtyard, in front of the courthouse, 800 guys named Paco show up hoping to be reunited with their dad. Wow. Of all of the things that we want in life, one of the most important things is to be forgiven our mess-ups by our friends, our families, by our God. And while we're waiting for others to say that they're sorry for what they've done, we might give some attention to how willing we are to forgive. You know, in order to encourage a person to be willing to say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong, there needs to be that assurance that there's going to be a second chance. You can be a source of it, of forgiveness, of second chances. Give them to others and you'll be a great friend. The good news is that God gives each one of us these second chances. Forgiveness is offered in Jesus Christ. He loves you. He died for you. He's the greatest example of what a friend should be. And here at Lodi Church of God Seventh Day, we want to exhibit that. We want to grow in that. We want to live and learn and forgive and move forward together. And if you're here as a guest this morning, I invite you to join us. You're looking for a church? Why not ours? In fact, I want to remind all of you, again, have I mentioned that next week is the connection? An opportunity for each one of us to join with a special circle of friends for 6 weeks. 6 brief, maybe 90-minute midweek meetings. The connection is an opportunity to plug into that. The commitment is a very simple one. Just read a chapter a day in a book, and the chapters are very short. Come to the Sabbath morning services. You were going to do that anyhow. And then plug into one of these small groups and meet once a week for 6 weeks to talk about God and purpose and life, and maybe along the way make or renew or deepen some good friendships. Pastor Scott and I are so eager for you to do that. We have a gift for you this morning. If you've been wondering what these baskets are, we've got a little booklet that we'd like each one of you who's willing to read it to take home with you. There's plenty for everybody in the room. It's called What on Earth Am I Here For? And it is actually the first 7 chapters of the book, The Purpose-Driven Life. So if you've been wondering, what is it that this, what am I getting in for? Here's a possibility to kind of do a little preview and see something about it. And if the first full week is in this little booklet, then you got to know that those short chapters that I've been talking about are really, really short. I hope that you'll use this gift in 2 ways. First, I hope that you'll read it right away. Maybe even this afternoon. You could read this easily in an hour. Some of you maybe even quicker. I'm thinking the best of you. But read it so that you know what we're talking about. The first 7 chapters. What on earth am I here for? I hope that it will motivate you to want to come next Sabbath to plug into a group as part of our connection. But secondly, I hope that after you have read it, that you'll turn around and pass it on to a friend or an acquaintance, somebody that isn't part of our church, and say, hey, we're going to be involved in a 6-week group discussion of the bestseller, The Purpose-Driven Life. Would you like to join? Come be a part of my group. We're going to read through this together. Pass it out as an invitation. If you give people a gift, then they're a little slower to say no. Oh, that was a secret. Please take a copy home with you. Read through it. Give you an idea of what we're going to be doing. But when it comes to friendship, here's my encouragement. Don't sit back. Don't be content to live life keeping others at a distance because you're so busy. I'm convinced that you were made to be a friend. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, life does get in the way. We are so extremely busy. Whether it's jobs or kids or activities or whatever it is, Lord, there's so much going on. And I'm guessing that probably every single one of us wishes that we had more time for the people that are important in our lives. But Lord, if we're honest, it's not a matter of having more time. We all have exactly the same. It's a matter of prioritizing and making time for those things and those people that truly are important. Father, I would pray that you would work in our lives and in our schedules to make true friendship a top priority in our daily schedule. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
So how many of you had those phone calls that I sometimes look at my phone and when somebody called me, I don't recognize the call, and I'll call them back and say, sorry, I missed your call. This is Rob. How can I help you? I never called you. Okay, sorry. I been there, done that, I guess. I don't know. For our closing song, if you turn to your blue chorus books once again, and let's go to 133, please. And please rise. Thank you for coming out this morning, and I'd ask Brother Harry if he'd close our service with a prayer, please.